Each season, Guys Telling Stories seeks out fascinating people with a good story to tell. I'm Rich Douglas, and this man beside me is my co-host, Bill Easton.
Yo.
We're a couple guys who love a good story. So join us on our quest to find fascinating people with a good story to tell. This is Guys Telling Stories. Welcome to Guys Telling Stories.
Hey, Rich.
Bill, got a great story for you today.
Did I mess up your intro?
No.
I said yo.
No,
when you said my name.
No, Bill. I love it when you jump in.
What we got today?
Couldn't be more excited to talk a little sales, a little marketing with Chase Slepak. Chase offered to talk to us about how he got involved with the iconic brand Jolt Cola. Mm-hmm. But Bill, I got to tell you, he's got one heck of a story. He's everybody. He's been involved and working since he was the age of 9. And we're talking, I believe, like a lemonade stand. I'm not sure if I'm getting that right, but
sure.
He had his own car wash business. I mean, I even heard there's a rumor he dabbled in some bounty hunting.
Yeah,
I mean,
who hasn't?
Well, no, I mean, imagine
I've been caught.
I mean, I love a good business card, and saying podcaster is pretty cool, but imagine meeting somebody who hands you one. It's like a former bounty hunter.
former bounty
That'll
hunter?
start a conversation in
That's
a bar.
funny.
You know what I'm saying? So, but Jolt Cola, getting to that brand, Bill, it's back. It was gone, but now it's back.
All the sugar, twice the caffeine.
That's right. And like I said, we have an unconventional story. Chase is a fire chief for his local fire department. He's involved in some real estate development. And, of course, the reason we're talking to him is he's vice president of sales of Jolt Cola. He's the person responsible for Jolt Cola's revival.
What is the? I have a Jolt story if you're interested.
Yeah, lay it on me.
So,
did you drink it growing up?
Our whole family drank it, and for free for a while.
For free.
Well, so it was back in I was probably in 4th grade, so I'm probably 9 years old, and off from school, and we were on a corner house, so on a dead-end block. So a car pulls up kind of right in front of our house, and I'm outside playing, and a guy walks up, and he's got all these little, newspaper bags, and they're red. And he says hi and puts it on the porch, and he walks across our lawn and goes down the street. And of course, I'm going to go, obviously, I want to see what it is. So I open the bag up, and it's a 2-pack of Jolt Cola, like a full 12-ounce can
just for free on your doorstep.
Yeah, drop it like sampling. Like
That's
I think
awesome.
It's just coming out. So I'm 9 or 10 years old. This guy is dropping off 2 packs of this thing, and he's walking up and down the street, and he's carrying a ton of them.
Sure.
So I wait, and he does the whole street, and he leaves, and I immediately start walking up the street and taking all my neighbors' Jolt Cola.
You're that kid. He probably stole the whole bowl of Halloween candy too.
We had no, I just ran fast for that, so I didn't. So yeah, we had we had Jolt Cola for a long time.
Oh man! So that when you say your whole family drank it, now I understand.
Yeah, we had plenty for a while.
Well, nowadays, Jolt Cola is probably a nostalgic drink for a lot of people, but that's where our guest comes in because it is back, and maybe Chase can send you some so you don't never have to steal it again.
That would be very nice. Are you going to throw in to him to send me some?
Yeah, we're going to have
sometime?
to.
Okay.
We'll talk to him off.
I'll give you half if you mention it. I don't want to ask.
All right. Well, let's give Chase a call. Hi, Chase. Welcome to the show.
Hey, good morning, guys. Thanks again for having me.
Yeah. Happy to have you.
Hey, for our listeners, let them know where they can find you if they want to find more information about you and your business.
Yeah, you can find out all about me and the projects I'm involved in at chaseslepak.com. So it's ChaseSlepak.com.
Great.
Now, Chase, just before we get into some of your stories, where are you? And if you could tell us your titles or officially, what do you do for a living?
Yeah, so I'm based here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, town I grew up in. We're about 40 minutes north of Pittsburgh. Officially, I carry a few titles. Most importantly, I'm a father and a husband. Second to that, I am the fire chief here in Fawn Township, Pennsylvania. So I'm a volunteer fire chief here in town.
Oh, thanks for doing that.
Oh, of course, it's one of my passions for sure. So for a living, I primarily vice president of sales at the Boylan Bottling Company. Boylan Bottling, manufacturers of pure cane sugar sodas. started in 1891, has really kind of developed into a full portfolio of premium beverages. I am president of our family's business, which is Slepak Enterprises. We're a socially responsible real estate holding company. So we're really kind of focused on making a major impact in what is kind of I would deem a forgotten mill town here locally. And then I think what you folks are most interested in is my current role as vice president of sales at the Jolt Cola company.
Jolt.
Yeah, Jolt Cola. Yeah, that's the story that came across our desk, and we'll get to that. But it sounds like you're involved with lots of different brands and projects. So let's hear a little bit more about your background. You said you grew up, just outside of Pittsburgh. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about growing up there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up, like I said, about 40 minutes north of Pittsburgh. Small, historically a coal mining town, actually. Very working class. Grew up pretty early on. My parents were divorced. Spent most of my time with my father and his parents, my grandparents. My grandparents, a Korean War vet and a fresh off the boat Korean immigrant, really did teach me a lot about hard work ethic, and grit. Something that I think really kind of resonated with me early on, and I always picked up on that kind of sense of pride that my family had just in hard work and their work ethic, and that's something I yearned for very early on in my life, I think.
Hey, before Jolt Cola, what did you do for work when you were kind of just starting out?
So very early on, as I mentioned earlier, I was very interested in working from a very young age. So I kind of got my first job around 9 or 10, working alongside my grandmother at a local nursery here in town. I was paid to carry out the plants and the boxes and load the customers' cars.
Good for you. Yeah. Wow. I mean, I was trying to think when my first job was.
I wouldn't be trusted with any of that stuff at the age.
No, I think I did some landscaping, meaning I cut my neighbor's grass or something when I was 12, but you got a 3-year head start on me.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it was a ton of fun. I remember the big transition for me and my big accomplishment, my tenure there at the old Pascore's greenhouse, was my ability or when I was finally trusted to run the cash register. So I had a lot of fun with that.
Cool.
So no lemonade stands, nothing like that?
That happened around 13. For my 13th birthday, my father bought me a commercial shaved ice machine, and I founded Chase's Frozen Fun in July of what would have been 2003, 2004.
That's great.
Oh, so you basically had your own version of a lemonade stand. Nice.
But not like the Snoopy one that I had. Like this guy had like a real...
I want one of those right now.
I have a popcorn machine.
Yeah.
I'm not doing anything with it except eating popcorn.
Yeah, instead of making money. Well, what about high school? Did you have any of these odd jobs like during those years?
Yeah, I really have started at 10 and haven't stopped since. Looking back, I think the pivotal point in my entrepreneurial ventures was certainly the Chase's Frozen Fun.
I love
from
the
there.
name.
From there, it got a little bit easier when I was able to drive, and I started doing asphalt sealing with a local asphalt sealing company. I was still kind of working at the greenhouse a little bit. My first vehicle was a pickup truck, and I knew that I wanted it to be a pickup truck because I always kind of thought of a vehicle as a tool. And if I knew I had a truck, I could always be in the lawn care business or landscaping business, whatever it may be. So I did a lot of that around town as well, from about 16 to 17.
This was great.
Yeah, 17 took a strange turn as far as my career path. I decided that I wanted to find something that I could do more on weekends, despite the weather, and early on in weekend days. And I found a local security company that was hiring for a weekend guard. And I was 17, so I had to fabricate my age a little bit to get the position.
Nice.
But I worked weekend security from about 17 to 18. At 18, my school had a work release program, and what it was they wrapped up a couple of electives, and you were able to leave school early to go, work a job. So if you were going to be in the trades, you could go work a job or whatever it may be. I took a very unique approach to it, and the security company I was working for paid $4 more per hour if you worked night shift. So I would actually leave school early on work release, go home and sleep the rest of the day, and I worked from 10 to 6, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. night shift guard, and would drive to school, sleep in the high school parking lot, and go to class for the rest of the day.
This guy from the age of 7 to 18 has worked harder than a lot of people I know.
That's grit
today.
right there. That's grit.
So the security got me thinking, and I remember thinking to myself, what else could I do with this? I guess a little bit of background. I'm not a small guy by any means, so I was like, all right, I'm starting to think of myself as a bit of a tough guy working security. How else can I capitalize on this? And the idea came to me. If you remember back in what would have been like 2008, Dog the Bounty Hunter was kind of the big thing on A&E.
No, you didn't. Did you?
I did. I remember the one great thing about working night shift security is you have a lot of time on the internet, right? And I remember doing all the research, and I'm like, in Pennsylvania, you don't need a license. You can pretty much just do this. It's actually kind of alarming, to be honest with you. And I decided that's what I wanted to do, and went and had my business cards made up, started researching the business plan. Called insurance companies, realized nobody insures a 17, 18-year-old kid to be a bounty hunter. That's just not a thing that happens.
No.
And I started reaching out to bail bondsmen because, that's where the work is generated from if you're going to be a bounty hunter. And
so wait a minute, hold on. Well, did you catch anybody? Like, did you?
I did.
Okay. I don't want to miss that part. I don't want to miss that if you did. Okay.
No, we won't miss that. So I get everything up and running, and I get a list of bounties, and I start researching them. And I started learning it's a lot more investigative work that there's a reason people specialize in this, not just high school kids trying to pick up a bail. It's not as easy as it sounds, but I ended up finding a guy, ironically, in a housing development that is now probably 3 miles from the house I live in today. Ended up arresting him. At this point, I mentioned earlier, I always had pickup trucks because I really thought they were a great tool and I could always use them for work. Ended up arresting a guy. Had a buddy of mine that came with me to do it. We both have no idea what we're doing. Arrest a guy, cuff a guy. He rides in the middle of my pickup truck, a single cab F-150, down to the Allegheny County Jail. I still have no idea. I've never done this before. I have the paperwork. I'm calling the bail bondsman, and I'm like, hey, man, I may have exaggerated in my when we were going through my experience here. I have absolutely no idea what to do when I get to the jail. I've got a guy in the front seat of my car. I do remember promising my parents as I was looking through these bails that no, Dad, it's going to be okay. I'm going to take non-violent criminals. So I wasn't so worried about anything going sideways with the criminal himself or the bail jumper. But we get down to the Allegheny County Jail, and they're like, okay, well, you know what to do. And I'm like, oh, here's the thing. I don't know what to do. I collected, I think it was a $500 reward on him. And I remember sitting back and being like, I probably have 40 hours into calling around and doing all this research for all of these different bails. I have no idea what I'm doing. And this just is not an effective business model at this juncture in my life. So yeah, did a little bit of bounty hunting.
I can't believe the guy sat in the middle of the seat and listened to you talk, telling people you have no idea what you're doing. And he didn't can I just get out now?
Yeah, I'm telling you, we're 18 and it was one of the other volunteer firemen from my fire department. I called him and I was like, I need some help, man. And we both, he's 6'2" and a $110. We both sat and he was in the passenger seat. We had the guy in the middle and transported them to the Allegheny County Jail.
Wow.
I mean, I've never met anybody who was a former bounty hunter, but Chase, that's an amazing story. Let me focus you a little bit here as you are starting to get involved with sales and marketing. I'm guessing this is post bounty hunting, but what were you doing in your life? Where were you when you started to sort of kind of focus a little bit more on the starting your own business and what type of business was that?
Yeah, so when I first got out of high school, I did a quick stint. As I mentioned earlier, my father was at Red Bull, actually the energy drink, for a while in its infancy, and he got me a job there to see what I wanted to do while I was getting out of school and bounty hunting. Did that for about 3 months and realized, yep, Dad, this really isn't for me. And ultimately met a pretty wealthy guy that was heavily involved in the car wash business. And I met him on Craigslist as I was literally just looking for business opportunities. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I just wanted to be in business for myself. I wanted to engage in business. I wanted to run a company. So again, a ton of time online, looking through the business sections of Craigslist at the time. I run into this guy who's got he had some car washes, and he was looking to rent out some space in one of his car wash locations for a detail shop. And I said, there's got to be good margins in that. It's a service-based business. Why don't I give that a try? Like, let's see what we can do here. Again, I'm desperate at this point just to run a business. That's all I want to do. I end up meeting with him, and I'm like, yeah, he's a very wealthy man. This is perfect. Like, he's obviously gotten wealthy by being in the car wash business. I want to be the car wash king now. This guy has restaurants. He's got real estate. This is all from his car wash business. It has to be.
This sounds like your first forte into, entrepreneurship. So, how successful was it? What were a couple struggles that you came across?
Yeah, it was moderately successful early on. It started very innocently, and we were just going to operate detail shops there. But again, I don't do anything small, so I immediately jumped right in, and I said, "I want to buy this car wash from you." And he said to me, all right, let's work a deal to set up some financing. So I was on the path to own this car wash facility. It was 4 coin operated bays, drive through. It was the real deal. And like I said, things were going really well in the winter, and you wouldn't expect that. But especially here in Southwest Pennsylvania, where we get snow one day and it's 60 degrees the next, wintertime's perfect car wash season. So we were doing really well. I was keeping up with the bills, paying towards the loan, and I was on the track to own this one car wash, and that was going to spiral into every other car wash in the tri-state area in my head. But the seasonality started to really affect me, and I slowly started to learn that maybe wealthy people didn't get wealthy by being in the car wash business. Maybe they were in the car wash business as a passive investment because they were wealthy. And ultimately, at 18, 19 years old, I didn't really have the cash reserves to float the bill during the lean months. So, sat down. I remember sitting in my bedroom at my parents' house, doing everything I could to keep the car wash alive. I said, okay, I need some additional income streams. I need some additional revenue to help keep this thing alive. If we can weather the hard times, this is going to pay off.
I'm curious, did your father ever have that come to Jesus moment with you? Did he ever sit you down and said, here is a path that you might want to take. It's up to you to take that first step? Yeah,
he absolutely did. He saw me. He saw me struggling to the point where, times were tough. I was working, at the car wash. I remember I was just telling my wife this story. We drove by it recently and it was snowing. And I said, I used to hand shovel that car wash because I didn't have the money to pay a plow guy. So yeah, he did. He sat me down and he said, look, I've got an opportunity. So my father owns a distribution company here in Pittsburgh. They distribute snacks and beverages to retail. Sat me down and said, I work with a brand that is looking for a local sales rep. And I think, it's completely up to you, but you might want to give it a shot. I think you could be good at it. And I remember telling him, yeah, I don't know. I just got to get through this next month of the car wash. It's going to be okay. And then I remember sitting down and really thinking about it and saying, you know what? Okay, I'll do this. I'm going to take this. This is going to kind of be a means to an end, right? It's not going to be, I don't want to follow into my father's business. That's not what I want to do. I want to go make some extra money, help alleviate some of these cash flow issues I'm having with my businesses. And ultimately, I'll be back in on my own, doing my own thing again in a year. So he set up an interview, and I interviewed with the Boylan Bottling Company it was called a territory manager's position. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Take that back, guys. At the time, it was called Peddler of Proprietary Pop was my title.
That's a tongue twister title, that's for sure.
Peddler of Proprietary Pop. And I remember thinking to myself, damn it, I've been a CEO since I was 16. This is ridiculous. I can't do this. But what that job was it was knocking on the doors of local retailers, It was attached to my father's distribution company, working for Boylan, but going out and just building the business, retailer by retailer, selling in the Boylan brands to those stores. And not too long after, probably about a year in, I got a call for our national sales meeting. Come on into New Jersey, and it's annual sales planning. It's going to be great. And we get there, and it became evident to me pretty early on. I was pretty successful in my role, but as a remote employee, it was very hard to kind of quantify that, right? Like, I didn't have any peers or colleagues near me. I knew my boss liked what I was doing, and that was great. But we got there, and it became pretty evident that I was apparently outperforming my peers. And the CEO had pulled me aside, and he said to me, there's a regional manager's position opening up in the Midwest. Nobody knows about it yet, but is it something you'd be interested in? And I remember saying, probably not. I don't know. I really wanted to stay in Pittsburgh and work on building my business, right? Whatever that business would be, whether it was going to be car washes or whatever it was going to be, I wanted to be in Pittsburgh where I could continue to build up my own companies, or try to. And I got back to the room that night, and I remember calling my dad and saying, you're not going to believe this. They gave me an opportunity to move to Chicago. That's crazy. I don't want to be a regional manager. This pop business isn't for me. This beverage business isn't for me. This is just a means to an end. And I remember waking up the next morning, and I called my dad back, and I said, would you be pissed if I took that job in Chicago? And he said, no, go do it. You should absolutely go give it a try. And I did, and moved to Chicago, working for the Boylan Bottling Company. So I'm about a year into my time at Boylan, promoted to a Midwest regional manager, and I'm doing really well. Again, my father's spent his entire life in the business, so I've got some connections at this point, and he's given me some advice. And I remember the money was awful, and I'm still cash strapped from my businesses, right? And I tell my wife this now. Right before I met her, I was actually staying in an extended stay hotel. This place was god awful, like an hour or 40 minutes outside of Chicago. It's god awful, and I'm eating whatever was cheapest at Walmart because I have a credit card with a $500 limit, and no cash, because all my cash is gone from this stupid car wash business I was in. So I end up really, really just going deep, and I said, all right, I need to go deep into, again, one of those moments with myself where I said, here's the plan, Chase. You can still be a businessman. You can still create something of your own, but you need to fix these income issues right now. You need to start making some revenue for yourself. You need to be able to live. You're out on your own for the first time. You got to make this happen. So I decided then that I'm going to go all in on the beverage business at Boylan. I'm going to go all in. I'm going to be the best I can be. I'm going to, work my way through. It's going to be decent money. I'm going to make a good living. And then I'm going to use that living to figure out what the next step is. And I started thinking, my dad has this beverage distribution company in Pittsburgh. Maybe I learn all I can here on the manufacturer supplier side here at Boylan. I learned everything I can, and I can take that back to the family business. And maybe that's my answer. Maybe my answer, I want to run a company. Maybe the answer is learn all I can here, go back and add that value to my dad's company. And that's what I thought I would do. And I thought I would do that for probably 4 years. So I'm living in Chicago, meet my wife, and no, she wasn't my wife then. Meet what is now my wife, and I get another call. Hey, come on into New Jersey again. We need to talk to you. And I remember being super excited. I'm 21, and it's my first business flight. I'm man, this is pretty cool. I'm committed myself to this company. I'm committing myself to this business itself. The beverage business in this industry. Here I am getting on a plane, going to see the CEO. This is going to be awesome. And I get there, and they sit me down and they say, you've done such a good job in the Midwest that we actually we want to make some changes here, and we want to promote you to our Mid-Atlantic territory. Now, the Boylan Bottling Company was founded in New Jersey, and that Northeast kind of Mid-Atlantic area has always been the number one market. So this was big potatoes for a kid that decided recently that he wants to really commit to that business, right? That industry. Now I'm going to be running, the number 2 region for the company. This is fantastic. Well, I just started dating this girl. So I get back to Chicago and I'm good news, bad news. Good news, I got a promotion. bad news, I have to leave. And I get out there, and it turns out she ended up getting an externship out of law school that was in New Jersey as well. So stuck together.
Law school, huh? Is that what you were? That's how you were getting over your financial difficulties. I see what's happening, Chase.
I wish that were the case, my friend. I really do. I worked so hard to make sure I didn't have any college debt, and now look.
Well, true. Well, Chase, it sounds like you're moving up in the world, getting promoted again, moving back to Pittsburgh, and I want to ask you about your plans for this relaunch of Jolt Cola, and kind of firmly establishing yourself in this beverage industry. But we're gonna do that right after this quick break. The good people at podcastyourstory.com are proud to sponsor the podcast. They've been helping businesses and individuals podcast their story for years. Bill, did you know some of my favorite podcast episodes are just one episode?
Yes.
I mean, think about it. Most people think podcasts have to be serial, like it's some long, ongoing production, but some of the best stories simply have a beginning, middle, and end. And that's why the professionals at Podcast Your Story are here to help. They help you record and tell your story, and the final product is one podcast episode for you to share with the world.
It's cool now. You can share it on other people's social media, so if you're going to do that for somebody, you can also share it with the world and your relatives and your friends.
That's the idea. Most of the people we talk to on this podcast, we talk to them once and we hear their story. So it could be the origin story about starting your own business, or a personal story like the day you had your wedding, or finding a long-lost adoptive sibling. I mean, the professionals at podcastyourstory.com specialize in this one-of-a-kind standalone podcast episode. And our listeners get 20% off your first recording. Just mention promo code GTS. That's 20% off your first recording with podcastyourstory.com by mentioning promo code GTS. And now, back to our interview. Can you tell us the story about becoming involved with Jolt Cola?
Yeah, Jolt Cola, the original American energy drink. All the sugar, twice the caffeine, right?
Double the sugar. No, all the sugar, twice the caffeine. Now I don't remember it. All the sugar, twice the caffeine.
It's been since the 80s, Bill.
I need one.
We forgive you.
I need one.
Yeah, so Jolt Cola burst onto the scene in 1985. In the secret recipe, again, all the sugar and twice the caffeine. It was a handful of years before I personally burst onto the scene. I'm told it was a great time to be alive. And to this day, I love to hear the stories of all the Jolt-fueled late night term papers and gaming sessions and all the wild times through the mid to late 80s. You fast forward to the 2000s, and with a crowded energy drink category, Jolt Cola kind of really forgot its roots. It wasn't what CJ Rapp really created in 1985, and it became this kind of weird version of just a value energy drink. There are all kinds of different flavors and different colors and crazy looking cans. So then ultimately, when new management took over, they made the tough decision to just discontinue the brand. So, Jolt Cola had great success early on in the 80s and 90s, even into the early 2000s. But once you started to see, Red Bull and Monster and these new age energy drinks, the category just became way overcrowded.
I mean, it was gone for, to the best of my recollection, probably 10 years. I mean, the fact we're even talking about it now is surprising to probably some listeners, because it was there and then it just wasn't there anymore. So, kind of bringing it back around to you, how do you come into that story?
Yeah, so good news, it's back. So discontinued in the early 2000s. We fast forward into 2017, and I'm getting ready to pull out of LaGuardia on a plane from New York to Vegas for an industry event I was going to, and sitting next to a guy, and we do the niceties, hey, how are you? Good, long flight, yeah, business or pleasure? I said, come on, man, it's Vegas. It's always both, right? So, yeah, business, yeah, same. Oh, where are you going? I said, trade show I'm going to, and he says, oh, yeah, me too. So we're taxiing, and I said, oh, so what do you do? I'm in consumer packaged goods, primarily beverage. And I said, oh, what do you do? And he said, well, I'm an executive at a company that does a lot of retail sourcing for the value channel. So the dollar stores, actually. And I'm like, oh, great. The one time I'm on a flight next to a guy that has purchasing power for a retailer, it's the value channel. And the Boylan Bottling Company, all of our products are very premium. So I'm like, here we are, 5-hour flight. I'm next to a guy that can purchase something for major retailers, and I don't make anything that fits his channel. Fantastic. So soon thereafter, we get up in the air. I maybe had a bourbon, and it hit me. We're just talking shop, and it hit me, and I said, what do you think about Jolt Cola? So, this gentleman was a little bit older than I am, and I said, so what do you think about Jolt Cola? You remember that brand? And he said, oh, my God, do I remember Jolt Cola. Jolt Cola, all the sugar, twice the caffeine. And so we just start talking, and pretty quickly I said to him, what if we relaunch that brand? I said, it's a good fit for the value channel. You have the connections and the purchasing ability in that channel. What if we work together to relaunch Jolt Cola? And by the time we landed in Vegas, we had pretty much sketched out what we thought to be the perfect relaunch plan. We landed in Vegas, promised that we would connect while we were on the ground, and went to our show, ended up connecting back at the airport. We were actually, ironically, on the same flight back to New York, shooting emails back and forth on the plane, trying to work through this plan. And that's kind of how the Jolt Cola relaunch came to be.
That's neat.
Yeah, so, we have a lot of listeners who love business. Can you tell us what the plans were for the relaunch?
Yeah, so again, the gentleman I'd met had very strong connections in the value channel. And when you're doing a relaunch or you're starting any consumer packaged good company, distribution's key, right? One of my favorite sayings is, good products never become real brands because of lack of distribution. Distribution is key. And that's really kind of my specialty. Talking to him, one of the major retailers he works with is actually Dollar General. At the time, Dollar General had about 12,000 stores. 12,000 stores is a large amount of doors. And when you're starting a brand or you're relaunching a brand, again, distribution is key. So knowing that we may have an opportunity with Dollar General for this relaunch, the decision to relaunch it with Dollar General was primarily driven by the store count. We had no interest in relaunching Jolt Cola unless we had the right partner. So having that access to almost 15,000 stores right away made Dollar General the perfect partner for a relaunch. We knew that we had built-in distribution.
So you got the location, you got the stores. What else do you have to do in a relaunch situation for a product that seemingly was successful at first, but then kind of faded away?
We had to do everything, and we had to do it quickly. So for those of you that don't know, in retail, there's what they call category review cycles, right? You only see the things on a shelf of a store change so often. And the timing for us, what would typically be, a year or 2 years to do something like this, we had a very limited window to work if we wanted to make the deadline to be on the shelf for what they call the next reset. So we started working quickly. We didn't have a UPC code. We didn't have a can. We didn't have manufacturing. We had, the original recipe, but we had no suppliers. This is a brand that hasn't been made in almost 10 years, right? So we had nothing. We had the design, the original can design, the original package design, logos, trademarks, and a recipe. So again, quickly got to work, had UPC codes, started working with, manufacturers, suppliers, and really just basically relaunched this brand in a matter of 8 to 9 weeks.
So you have the recipe. Is it really all the sugar and twice the caffeine?
It is really all the sugar and twice the caffeine.
Just checking.
It really is all the sugar, twice the caffeine. It's the original recipe from CJ Rapp when he started it in 1985. The only thing that has changed is, and again, the can design is the same as well. The only thing that has changed is at launch, it was a 12-ounce can, and we actually decided to go with a 16-ounce can. That's kind of what the market in that category dictates at this point.
Well, let me jump right to it. What was the response of the relaunch?
The response from the relaunch was fantastic. We sold out on Amazon in our first day. The nostalgic customers, the guys that remember it from 1985, they were all over it. They really wanted to get their hands on it. At the time, retro was really cool. Crystal Pepsi just did a relaunch. So we weren't the only retro brand doing a relaunch. There was a ton of national media coverage. It was picked up on late shows, Good Morning America. It was all over.
It's nice when you can get that coverage and not have to pay for it.
Yeah. Earned media is fantastic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Chase, if we jump ahead to the future for let's say for Jolt Cola, what are your plans for the brand?
Yeah, so we're continuing to build retail distribution. Our arrangement for the relaunch initially was with Dollar General, but now we are focusing on building additional retail distribution as well as non-traditional. So you can find Jolt 16-ounce cans expanding through convenience stores all across the country. And again, we're continuing to look at just conventional retail outlets as well. You will also be able to soon find Jolt Cola fountain machines. So all the sugar, twice the caffeine, same recipe, available to you on a soda fountain machine. So it's going to be great in food service and great in convenience.
Well, that's pretty cool stuff, Chase. Anything else you're excited about in the future?
Yeah, we're going to continue to build brands, hopefully. We're looking at a couple other categories right now. Soon enough, we're going to be in the protein bar business. Other than that, just continuing to focus on my contributions here at our local community and our family business.
Absolutely.
So going back on your entire story from basically when you were 10 years old and 13 and through all those jobs, we're looking for advice you'd want to give someone starting their own business, especially if they struggled in the beginning. They can kind of just listen to this and pick it up. But any other tips that, that you found and along your journey and how to help them out?
So for me, one of the things that's always stuck with me from my father is to be a plow horse, not a show horse. And that to me means do the hard work. Don't worry about being pretty. Just do it. Get in, do the work.
Well,
if you're not pretty,
if you're not pretty, you got to work harder. No.
Damn it.
Bill, we'll cut that part out too.
He cuts all my jokes out.
Not the good ones. Well, Chase, this has been a pretty fantastic story. I mean, taking us all the way through everything from the snow cone sales business to the car washes to the relaunch of a brand like Jolt Cola. Pretty good stuff. Can you remind our listeners where they can go to find out a little bit more about you and all the brands you're working with online?
Yeah, you can find out more about me and my projects and all of our brands at chaseslepak.com. So ChaseSlepak.com.
Awesome. Well, guys, this has been a pretty incredible story. And Chase, thanks so much for doing the show.
Yeah, thanks for your time, Chase.
Thank you, guys.
Chase Slepak and Jolt Cola. Wow, Bill, what do you think?
Oh, the best part about that story, Rich, was that when you told him to send me Jolt Cola so we could have some and I don't have to steal it anymore.
Oh my gosh, I forgot to mention that. Chase, if you're listening, we don't want Bill to get in trouble for stealing Jolt Cola again.
No.
Actually, you didn't get in trouble the first time, but
I did not get in
no
trouble
more
the first
stealing,
time.
Bill.
Okay.
Chase, please. I'll send you Bill's office address. Let's get this guy some Jolt.
It's quite a story. It is hardworking. If you're hardworking kid grows into hardworking adult and seems to have a knack for finding the right timing on things.
Absolutely. And nowadays, so many people want to just be like handed an opportunity. And sometimes if they are, they don't want to take it. They're afraid like they're going to be stuck in a job for, the rest of their life, or maybe they don't want to commit to anything just yet. It's scary to commit, but a guy like Chase, he was willing to kind of go all in multiple times and fail, pick himself back up. And he found himself in a position to relaunch an iconic brand like Jolt Cola, and a pretty cool story along the way.
You can learn a lot when you fail and when you take jobs or do things that you necessarily don't want to do. But all of that can help you be successful in the future.
Absolutely. Well, reminder to you, the listeners out there, that if you know somebody with a fascinating story like Chase or a brand you want us to do a story on like Jolt, send it our way on our website, guystellingstories.com. Just go to our Suggest a Story form, and we love it when people send us suggestions, so check that out online. Yeah, you can send us some samples too. We'll give you Bill's office address. And as always, if you're new to the show, be sure to tap subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or just share the episode with friends. There's nothing like word-of-mouth recommendation. We really appreciate it.
Yes, we do. Rich is a good one.
I know. I enjoyed it, Bill. Now, let's go drink some Jolt. All right, as always, I'm Rich Douglas.
I'm Bill Easton.
Until next time.